Let's talk shapes. In Inkscape, similar to your other vector programs, you have a taskbar that has different shape functions already built into it. So I'm going to show you how to make these basic shapes, and we're going to start real quick just by going over the two selection tools here. So the first one is your select and transform. It's your regular cursor. You can click on an object, move it around, and then you can also transform it. So you can click on the side, make it bigger or smaller, click on the top, make it bigger or smaller, click on the corners to scale it. And if you have this lock at the top selected, you can use the corner to scale it uniform. And then you can also click on the shape and see how these arrows change. You can use those to skew or to rotate. And those are the functions that come with this first selection tool. And then if you use the second one, it is called the Edit Paths by Node tool. You can zoom in here and see how these two corners, these are what are called our nodes, they're that box, and you can use those to adjust your shape. This round one adjusts the corners. So if you decided you can take it all the way down to a circle, or you can have rounded corners. That is how you can adjust your rectangle to go from just a regular square to a square with those rounded corners. So I'm just going to show you using the rectangle tool. I'm just going to trace over these existing shapes that we made just to show you. So we can make a square, and you just click down on where you want it to start and drag until you meet your desired shape. So if you wanted a thin rectangle, a thick rectangle, and then you just let go, and there's your shape. And to get the rounded corners, you do the shape that you want in the size that you want, and then you click on your node editing cursor, click on this circle, and just pull it down until you get to the level of rounded corners that you want. So you can see that we just really quickly made 3 boxes that all have a slightly different appearance just using that rectangle square shape tool. So the next one is the circle and the oval, and it's right underneath of the rectangle on that taskbar. And the first thing we can do is just make a regular round circle. And the same thing with the transform. You can make it larger, thinner, turn it into an oval, rotate, do all of those fun functions with this first selection tool. And then you can go in and adjust your nodes. So you can click on the square ones to change the width and the thickness. And then you can use the round one in the same way that we did the rounded corners. You can turn it into like a Pac-Man. You can turn it into a half circle, or you can even make just like a little arc, whatever look you're going for with your circles. So again, you can create a lot of different shapes with this these shape builder tools. So we've got a regular circle, and you can even copy and paste that and then use your transform tools to make the different styles, to make an oval or to make a circle, and then you can edit them with your cursors to do those different functions and come up with some really cool shapes. And the possibilities with these, once you know how to use these shapes, you can combine and use circles and triangles and rectangles and make other forms that can become something recognizable, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So then the next one is the stars, and we're going to start with the star portion of the star and polygon tool. So you can see here, if you hover over it, it says create stars and polygons, and then at the top, it gives you the option to choose between a regular polygon or a star. So I'm clicking on the star, and we're going to go down to 3 to start with, and what that gives us is a triangle. And so from here, we can move it, change the shape, mess with that transform, do whatever we want for the appearance of our triangle. And we can also use the same thing that let us adjust the arc on our rectangle and our circle. So if we wanted to make this kind of like ninja star shape out of our triangle, we could do that, or we could just leave it regular with the normal sides and adjust it with the node tool on the corner to make it a larger version, or just keep it a regular triangle. So depending on what you're going for, you can use those tools combined to come up with your shape. And so then from the star tool, you can go here at the top to where it says corners, and you can increase the number of corners. So we can do a four-sided star. Um, and while you're clicked on it, you can actually increase the number of corners. So we can go up to a 10-sided star, and we can also round the edges if that's something we wanted to do. So this almost looks like the Splat logo from popular TV children's show, or it could look like a coronavirus cell. It just, you can mess with the number of points that it has. You can make some kind of like groovy flower here, you know? Say I want a 5-corner star and I'm making some like funky groovy hippie earrings. These could be some cool shapes there. And then, you know, we can go in with our nodes tool, make this bigger, smaller, adjust the level of arc in between, kind of make them a little funky here, twist it around. You can really, like, this doesn't even look like a star anymore, but it was built from the star tool. And so then I'm just going to change the rounding level back to 0, make it just a regular 5-point star, and call it a day. The next part is the Polygon tool, which is part of the star tool, but you just select under this change section at the top, you select Polygon. Oops, and I needed to click off that. So we're going to do Polygon, and I'm going to create one. This is a pentagon. It's got the 5 sides. When I was little, my favorite book was The Grady Triangle, so I like seeing the different shapes all the way up to as many sides as you can think of, honestly. And now it's starting to just look like a circle, but we're gonna go back to 5. I'll show you what it looks like with the rounded corners. And so you can even go negative with the rounded corners to make some kind of cool like flower shape here. So like these are all things that you could use if you're making nursery signs. Like you could make a funky like, you know, 70s, 80s, like some cool groovy flowers and stuff. And I don't know my decades that well, but see how it has the pentagon in the middle and then it has this shape around it? Like that could be kind of a cool little flower. It just takes some playing around with them. And so I'm actually going to just do a little random I guess visual of how you can use these different shapes together. I'm going to make the silhouette of a bunny. We're going to start with this circle, and this is going to be our bunny's face. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make 2 ovals, and I'm going to rotate it slightly so that it looks like the bunny's ear sticking up, and I'm going to duplicate this. And then from here I can go to Object, flip horizontal, and I could also use the H key on my keyboard. That is the shortcut for that. But so here we are. This is just a really basic bunny head. So there are a lot of people making Easter basket tags out of bunnies. So you could make a really simple one like this. Or if you decided you wanted to get a little bit funky and give your bunny a floppy ear, we could do that as well. So I just copied and pasted this with Command C, Command V, and I'm using my rotate that we learned earlier. And there is your bunny's floppy ear. And that's just with 4 ellipses. So 4 circles, ovals, whatever you want to call them. And then from here, what we could do is select all of them, and I'm going to go over the Pathfinder functions in a little bit to give you a better understanding of how all of these work. But the simplest one is union, and what that does is it makes this all one shape. And so see, it's all one piece here. If we were to apply a stroke to it, it would outline all the way around. There's nothing where these had originally intersected because they are simply now one shape. And so if we decided that we wanted to get a little bit fancier with our bunny and we wanted to have a cutout where the inside of his ear would be, say if we were gonna, I don't know, be a little funky with it here, we could create this oval inside of the bunny's ear. And depending on how we wanted to do this, we could do a layered design where you would cut out this shape and glue it on top of your base for your bunny backer, or we could do a score where the outline of this would be cut out and then this shape would be scored. I'm only using the fill colors right now just to show you the appearance of what looks like a bunny, and then I'll show you how I would change it for the laser in just a second. But so then we have that side, and now we're going to do this side, and since we have it folded over, we are going to need to cut this part off. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make, if I hadn't united it together, I could have easily just copied this circle and pasted it over top to get that effect. But so we're making something very similar to the floppy ear part. And then what I'm going to do is select both of these together. And I'm going to do path difference. And so now what we have is the inside of the bunny ear where it looks like that top part is folded over. And looking at it, I feel like this part has a weird bump. So what we're going to do is double click, or you can go to your node selection tool, and then I'm just going to click this one little node here and hit delete, and I'm going to see how that looks. It still looks a little funky to me, so I'm also going to delete, and you can delete multiple by holding down and dragging over which ones you want to delete. And I just deleted out all 3 of those, and I'm just going to adjust this a tiny bit down, and there is my cute floppy bunny ear for my basket tag. And so from here, what I'm going to do is just show you if I were to turn this into a cut file, I would do a red stroke, and I would change these to either be engraved details on my bunny, which, you know, let's do that. So I always use red for engrave, and I am going to also add just a tiny nose. We're going to use this. So oh, it's still on rounded corners, that's fine. So we turn that back to 0. I have a little triangle. I'm turning off the stroke for it because all we want to do is engrave our triangle, and I'm going to rotate it. And you know what? Maybe it does need a little bit of rounding to it. So we're going to go back to our rounded corners and go up to 0.25. And then I think that looks pretty cute, like a bunny nose. So we're going to put that down here, and we are going to use our pen tool to just draw a straight line for some whiskers. So you make a start point, and then you go where you want it to end, and I'm just going to hit enter, and it's going to turn that into a line for us. And I'm going to do 2 more, and I'm going to turn these blue because, as I mentioned, blue in my files is for stroke, and I'm just going to copy and paste, or you can duplicate. So you can do Control C, Control V for copy and paste, or Control D to duplicate. And then I'm going to use that horizontal shortcut where you just press H and it flips over. And so there is my simple little bunny. It's going to have engraved ears and a nose, and then it's going to have scored whiskers. And so if I wanted to add a loop for a hook at the top, it would be really, really simple. I'm just going to draw a circle, and we're going to make it pretty round. And then I'm going to duplicate Control D this circle and make it a little bit smaller. And we're going to place that inside the original circle. And then we're going to do path exclusion. because that turns that into one piece, and then we're going to union that onto our bunny. And like I said, I'm going to go over the Pathfinder tools in the next section in depth, showing what each and every one does. But this is just to show you that with these basic shapes that you have and your path functions, you can build shapes in your Inkscape program. You don't need to know how to draw to be able to make files for your laser. You will be able to figure it out, and you're going to learn how to make some really cool things.